Hi, families. Can you believe that it's almost the holiday season? Well, as we get closer to December, we want to spend a few moments to talk with you on this theme of connection that we've been discussing as a whole school this month. We understand that connection for us, first and foremost, means primarily our connection to God and how He knows us so well. But we also extend that in how we get to know each other. And one of the ways that we know that a lot of our students are involved with as far as how they get to know each other is through technology. And there's a lot of thinking behind this as we approach the holidays, and you may be considering gifting your child with technology. And we thought that it would be great to spend some time together to think about that and to reference some other material that can help you to gain a little bit more clarity on how best to do that and to be wise together as the adults in our children's lives. As we begin, I do want to start us off in a word of prayer. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of this season as we anticipate celebrating the birth of Christ and all that it means to us, because we, because of his birth and his death and resurrection, have relationship with you. And we thank you that you know us as your children so well. And we confess that there's a lot that we don't know in how we best shepherd and lead our children, but we also know that there are ways that we can be wise and understand best on how to provide what we need for our children to be positive, healthy, and whole. And that includes being wise in the area of technology. And so we ask in this time that we gain some clarity on how best to do that, especially as we consider the holidays approaching. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. We're so blessed to have Ms. Prail with us. She is our Design, Innovation, and Technology Specialist. She works alongside our Design, Innovation, Technology instructors and also us as teachers. And so we're very fortunate to have her thoughts and her expertise. If you didn't catch our session last year with Kyle Johnson, who is our school board director, we had a session that spoke on the social dilemma. And so there's lots to consider as we think about adolescents and particularly our children in the area of technology. So I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Prail, and she will be providing lots of helpful information for you.
Hi, parents. I am very excited to be sharing some ideas and some thoughts today. As Ms. Lee talked about, this is going to be focused on technology and the holidays coming up. It's a really exciting time. Our children have some extra time off, some time to spend with family, really connect with friends. So we want to give you some tips and some strategies and tools on how to support your children for success during this holiday time. So some of the things that we're going to talk about is really to think about technology during this holiday season, both giving technology as gifts to our children, as well as their use of technology during family time and free time. Our goals with this are to give you some guidance and help to create some intentions around giving technology, creating rules and boundaries for our children to help them use it the most effectively, efficiently, and safely as possible, and also be more informed on everything that they're using and the decisions that you're making. These are some of the topics that we'll cover: giving tech as gifts, our rules and boundaries, setting up accounts, expectations, alternative activities, resources, and a follow-up. So first, considering tech as a gift. The biggest thing to ask is, are they ready? So AT&T has an amazing website that has a smartphone quiz. So if you're on the fence about should I get my child a smartphone, it's great to just kind of go on and see what are some of the experts saying? What are some of the people behind the scenes of all this tech saying in terms of readiness? A lot of it's very age appropriate. You don't have to get a smartphone as their first phone. There's a lot of phones that look like a smartphone, so it would still meet a lot of the requirements that our children have to kind of fit in with all of their peers. But we really want to think about what is the reason that we're giving them this device and what content will they encounter. The next is setting intentional guidelines when giving technology as a gift. This could be a a game system, a phone, an iPad, even an iWatch. We don't just want to hand this over to our children and expect them to know what it is. You're handing them a small computing device that has access to the internet, talking to strangers, all this content that isn't filtered. So really having an intentional use for this product for your child, as well as making sure to have limits on that. That could be setting up screen time limits through a lot of these apps, setting parental controls, sitting with your child and making sure they know that there's only so much screen time in a given day or even in a given sitting. You don't want your child to be playing on their phone or on their game console for 3-4 hours straight. You don't want them on their device when they're eating dinner with the family or if they're watching a movie with friends. These are things we want to try to be present with. So setting intentional guidelines when giving a piece of technology as a gift is really going to help with your children. Also, selecting age-appropriate devices. There's an amazing website called Common Sense Media. It helps to determine what age ranges, movies, video games, even devices are appropriate for. We want to make sure that you understand the device that you're giving to your child. Make sure that you understand its limitations as well as what it opens up. A lot of the devices connect them to the internet, and there's no real safety guidelines unless we put them into place. Will that piece help their social development? As Miss Lee said, this is a time when they're connecting with a lot of their friends. They have that time to talk, to text, to chat, but really making sure that there's some real life interactions with them, that it's not all through screens. We also want to make sure that it's not going to hinder their academic growth. So if they have free reign on their iPad, free reign on their video game system, and they don't have a time constraint, especially during the school week, you could start to see an impact on their academics. And the biggest thing is talking with your child about your expectations. Being very clear with your child from the get-go is going to help make this process much easier and successful for the family. So, which leads us into establishing those rules and boundaries early. And if you've already created a situation where you've given your child a piece of technology, a phone, a smartwatch, an iPad with no rules or boundaries, it's okay to start them now. It's never too late. It might be a little bit more challenging, but if you stay consistent, it's going to even out. So the first thing is creating some home rules around your tech use. This might look like tech-free zones, such as nothing at the dinner table. You do not have your tech in your bedroom. Maybe you allow it in the bedroom, but the door has to be open. Tech should never be left in our children's room overnight. That's a very easy way for them to go on. Your phone or your iPad pings, suddenly it's like 12 o'clock at night. They're just going to go check it really quick. That blue light keeps them up. Suddenly our kids aren't going to bed until 1 o'clock in the morning and they have school the next day. Setting daily screen limits. Us as adults, we have this ability to do. There's a lot of parental controls that you can add onto phones, iPads, consoles that can limit how much time they spend on a particular app or on their phone in general. You also have the ability for your child to request more time. So this is something that can change with each day. Having consequences for overuse or breaking the rules is extremely important when setting up your rules and boundaries around technology. If they break it and there is no consequence, then they don't have a fear. They're just going to use it as they see fit. And also making sure that there's limits on things that you feel are not appropriate, such as YouTube. For children that are younger, YouTube is a rabbit hole that's going to just keep giving them more suggestions, and it does give them suggestions on things that are not appropriate for their age range. The second is having outside rules for your tech. If you've given your child a smartwatch or a phone, even an iPad, can connect to the internet, and again, they have free reign. So making sure your expectations are clear. They're going to go on a play date, they're going to have a sleepover. Make them aware of what you are expecting. You do not expect them to be on their phone all the time because they're with their friends in real life. And talking with them about your expectations and the importance of building those connections in real time with their friends will help them to see why that there are rules with technology and why you're putting boundaries on. Also, creating a family media plan or family rules. what they're allowed to do, when they're allowed to do it, for how long. This should be parent driven. You and your significant other should be sitting down, being on the same page with these rules. Depending on the age of your children, bring them in after you have a set sense of like, this is what we're thinking. Now bring the child in and get their buy-in on it. The sooner you start, the easier it's going to be. We are going to have a packet attached with this live stream, which gives you some different ideas on how to start creating those conversations with your significant other, what areas to start creating rules in, and some guidelines. The next thing, which is extremely important to go over with your children and also you to make sure that these settings are correct, is your privacy and safety. So you as parents being very transparent and communicating with your child that you will be monitoring their technology use. And I know sometimes this could get into gray area where you think that, or they think that you're invading their privacy. As long as they are under the age of 18, the parents are legally responsible for anything that they do online. All applications and games that that our children are on, they must legally be 13 years old with the parents' permission in order to have them. And that's because the parents are legally responsible. So with that, you have every right, and I encourage you to monitor their technology use, but don't do it sneakily, grabbing their phone, looking who they're messaging and reading through everything. Be very transparent with them. Let them know why you're doing this and what you're going to be looking for. And as they grow with their technology and show you that they can be trusted and are making good decisions, you can give them more and more freedoms. So another big thing is setting up all your privacies in every application that they're in. So the default is not always setting everything to the most private. And since our children are underage, we want to make sure everything is as tight as we could be. They should not be getting messages from people who are not their friends in real life. People who are strangers should not be seeing posts that they make on Instagram. They should not be able to befriend them on Snapchat. These are things that we want to make sure that our children know. This is not a time for them to try to make friends online of people that they do not know. And also making sure that each account that they have is appropriate. Nowadays, Google, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Discord even, they have child accounts. Instagram just came out with a teen account. These are to help specifically monitor your children, but also make sure that the content that's getting to them is appropriate. Which brings us to setting up accounts, specifically with safety in mind. Creating those teen and child accounts. Almost every application nowadays has some kind of parental control and or child account. Some are definitely better than others. Google has a whole section where you can create emails for your child. It's very important that you put their correct age because once they hit 18, they're able to detach from their parent as the email holder, and then they have an adult email. But up until that point, they're getting that security that the company is giving for anyone under the age of 18. Gaming consoles also have parental controls and child accounts. That's extremely important because all of our gaming consoles nowadays go online and our children really go into online game playing. That's where a lot of strangers may be met. There could be a lot of dialogue that's going on that's not appropriate. So we want to make sure that our children are in the appropriate accounts. And again, explaining why and talking to your child about it. It might be a tough conversation, especially if they haven't had these rules or if they're older, but the more that you talk about this, the more normalized it will be. Which brings us to implementing some parental controls. So you can restrict in-app purchases. I know a lot of our students have talked to me about how they've spent a lot of money on buying skins in Roblox or buying extra turns in these online games that you can download for free on their iPhones or iPads. So restricting in-app purchases makes sure that they don't go down that path, which oftentimes it's that algorithm and that addiction of like, I just want to play one more round. But if they can't purchase that, then it starts pulling them back to reality. You can set time limits on apps, and it can be as least restrictive as popping up saying, hey, you spent 30 minutes on this. Do you want to continue? Or giving a warning saying you have 5 minutes left before you won't be able to use this app anymore. They can, of course, request more time from you once the parental controls are set, but giving them that pop-up to be like, hey, you've spent 30 minutes here. Do you want to continue? It's helping to bring our children's awareness to what they are doing. Setting downtime is actually a very important thing that we suggest. It's where your phone, your iPad, the gaming console will not turn on during certain hours. This is going to be really important to help our children sleep and to break out of things. So if you have a bedtime for your children at 9:30, the recommended time to stop using all these devices is 2 hours before you're going to sleep. But no matter what, during their sleeping hours, we always suggest turning that downtime on, turning it so you cannot play a game. You can't go on your phone. You can't go on your iPad during the time that you should be asleep. There is nothing that important in our children's lives that they need to be on their phone or on the computer when they should be sleeping. There's also the ability to block specific content. In the packet that we're going to share, there's a couple instructions on setting up an Android phone and an iPhone in order to get some of these features. Also, having regular check-ins with your children. So this can be reviewing your screen time reports. So in the bottom of our slide, we have how to set screen time and what it's going to look like. It's going to break it down to how much time they spend in each app, and it can even go into what times they're actually using those apps. Sometimes, even for us adults, it's good to see this so we're aware of where we're spending our time. And especially if our children are aware of where they're spending their time, this is going to help bring up that responsibility in them to say, oh, maybe I shouldn't be spending 45 minutes on Instagram because I really didn't do anything. I'm just scrolling. Or if they see that they've picked their phone up 20 times in an hour, that might make them notice like, oh, I picked my phone up, but there is no reason for me to, and start developing that self-control sense. Also, with regular check-ins, you want to actually sit down and check in with your child. Ask them to show you some of their most favorite apps. Sit down and play a game with them that they might be really into. Making sure to connect with your child, know what they're doing on whatever device it is. You may not really enjoy playing Roadblocks, but you sitting down with your child, spending 10, 20, 30 minutes playing this game, you understand what they're doing. You understand who they're talking to and how they're talking. And then it gives you a little bit more power. Plus, your child has now realized you are interested. They may think you love Minecraft or Roblox, but it's okay if you don't. You don't necessarily have to share that with them, but you have that connection. The biggest thing is talking with your child about expectations. So you can make your rules, you can lay them out, you can set all your parental controls, but really having that open dialogue with your children, no matter what the age. It's going to change as your child gets older, but being very honest about why your expectations are and these rules are how they are. That's going to go into our responsible technology use. You can talk to them, and especially as they're older, talk to them about stuff that might be going on with their classmates. Group chats are a huge thing in our community. And sometimes group chats leave our children feeling a little uncomfortable, a little unsure of what to do. I've known some children who have said that they have left the chat. I know some children who have said that they're afraid to leave chats or not do things because they don't want to be bullied or have this negative impact on them. So these are good things that you want to start talking to your child about. You want to know what's going on in their technology life because it's so easy to hide, but this is something that we need to talk about more. Online safety is also very big. Making sure while we talk about at school what not to post, when not to post, what not to share, this is something that needs to come at our children from all fronts. This is pictures, this is information, this is locations, activities. We want to make sure that our digital footprint for our children is very small. No one needs to know where they are at all times. If it's something that's sent in a text message to someone specific, it's very different than posting on a public forum. And also making sure to talk to them about strangers on the internet, because especially with all of this online gameplay, Snapchat even has a feature where you can befriend people who are close to you or who might be in a similar age range. So these are things to be aware of and to start talking to your children. When we were all younger, we talked about stranger danger in real life. If someone comes up and starts talking to you, beware. And this is something that we need to normalize for the internet. If someone's talking to you online that you don't know, we need to be aware of that. Also, they're going to encounter things that are going to make them uncomfortable, things that might make them not sure. And we want to make sure that they are comfortable talking to an adult, talking to their parents, talking to their teacher, their principal. We need to make sure that everyone is still communicating because, again, the internet is an unsupervised area. We don't know what they're getting into. Sometimes they don't even know what they're getting into until they're in it. And especially if they see something that makes them uncomfortable or makes them start questioning, it would be much better for them to have a conversation with us than to start a Google search of something inappropriate, and that leads them down a rabbit hole. Along with expectations, there needs to be consequences. If something happens that they purposefully did, they snuck their computer into their room when they weren't supposed to. They figured out how to get into the passcode and change their screen time limits. They've broken some other rule. This needs to be followed up with a conversation and some kind of consequence. Do not feel hesitant about removing the phone, the computing device, the iPad, the game console for a day, for a week, for the rest of the semester, for the rest of the school year, if it's that bad. And finding out that they have consequences and you sticking to them is how it's going to help our children to know not to act in that same way. But if they do break it, and say they get in trouble, but they still have access to the technology, that's not going to help them to learn that they can't act this way. So I know it might cause a little rumble in the household. It may not be a pleasant situation, but removing that technology that they've broken the rule around is going to help tremendously in the long run. And working with our children around technology, we're in this for the long run. So while it might not be pleasant for this moment in time, it's going to get easier. Always be honest with your children, but stress to them that they need to be honest. As I started all of our DIT classes this year, I told every single student, you need to be honest with me. If something happened to the computer, even if something broke on it, you need to let me know and be honest because it's going to be easier, it's going to be better, and I'm going to be less upset than if you lie and try to cover it up. Because as we know, especially with things with technology, lying, covering it up starts to make it a little bit worse, especially if it's something that's happened online, if it's something that they've gotten into trouble about. The sooner we know about it, the easier it is we can fix it or address it. Setting those expectations for communication with their friends. This is going to also be a huge point. And as we're in the month where we're really celebrating and focusing on our communication, knowing the healthy ways to communicate with their friends, putting those time limits on themselves for social media and messaging. They shouldn't be messaging with their friends for 3 to 5 hours. This is at that point, let's pick up the phone. We can do group calls on FaceTime. You can call on Messenger, on Instagram. There's so many different ways that we can connect real time. And it warmed my heart as some of my older middle school students had mentioned that they're like, oh yeah, we pick up the phone and call. Now, not actually physically virtual call, like they're still getting the facial recognitions, they're getting their social cues, and they're having that interaction. So really encouraging that. Explaining why it's important to always watch what they say in a text message, helping them understand that context doesn't come through. So if you're trying to be sarcastic in a text message, their friend might actually interpret them as them being mean. And so certain ways they need to explore, but also check in with their friends. And also Connecting, making sure that you speak on any unkind or bullying communication. This is something that we should not tolerate at any time. And if they see this in a group message, encourage them to come and speak with you, because you need to be that trusted adult. They can speak with anyone at school, they can speak with you, but making sure they have an outlet if there is something that they're encountering with their friends that they're uncomfortable about, because we can help navigate through those situations. Reviewing and discussing those privacy and safety rules, going over the basics again of what not to share. And the very important point here is explaining why you don't share, what they need to be worried about with people on the internet and strangers. So as we go into the holidays, giving technology as a gift is one thing that we wanted to talk about. However, the alternative thing is you're going to have lots of time with family. There's going to be Thanksgiving, there's going to be Christmas holidays, we're going to be doing lots of celebrations, and wanting to make sure that our children in their free time and when they're with their family and friends are fully present. The last thing that we want is our children sitting at a dinner table at Thanksgiving, scrolling or playing a game or messaging. So helping them to upfront say, hey, we have some time off this week. We have a whole week off for Thanksgiving. We're going to have some non-tech activities. We can have suggestions, some family time with no tech, encourage physical activity outside, getting together with their friends in person. Also, having unplugged hours. This could be a family affair where you're going to play games together. You're going to watch a movie. But the key point in doing that is you as the parents, you have to unplug as well, because you are their main role model. So if they see you constantly on your device, they're not going to see why they shouldn't be on their device. So making sure this holiday season to have some time where you just get to be with your family. Choose a movie or a show, play a game, go see some Christmas lights, or go to an activity together, and no phones. Our eighth graders, when they went on their trip to Washington, D.C., had the pleasure of using digital cameras, and many of them expressed their joy in using the digital camera. While I'm sure they miss the quality of the camera on their phone, it shows that they are happy to use different technology and they can be away from their phone. But we have to encourage that behavior. A few online resources that we have that we're going to share. Common Sense Media, as we mentioned, is an amazing resource for us for all different kinds of technology. AT&T has the readiness quiz for smartphones. And again, just a reminder, you can get your child a phone without it being a smartphone. There's a lot of different type devices out there. There's Gab phones. There's the coming back in style flip phones that we can get. There's Cricket phones that oftentimes are advertised for older folk, but it gives you the basic text messaging, phone calls, and picture taking. And honestly, until our children reach a certain age, that's all they really need. You can also put GPS on many of these devices. You can get smartwatches that are not Apple iWatches or Google Pixel watches. So these are things that we want to encourage looking for, especially if you're considering getting your child something for Christmas. Wait Until 8th is a fantastic nonprofit organization that gives parents resources and encourages them to not give children smartphones until 8th grade. There is a pledge that you can give yourself, and you can also encourage the other parents in your grades. Again, this is not to say no phones. You can give your child a non-smartphone. A smartphone is one that can go on the internet. It basically is a computer in your child's hands, which we don't want our children on our computer unmonitored as is. So this is something that might be a good option, especially for younger children. Family Online Safety Institution is also a nonprofit that gives more online safety tips for parents, ways to have conversations with your children, and more helpful stories as well. A few key takeaways from today is really setting those rules and guidelines for your children with technology. And again, this is something that you're going to pre-do before you talk to your children. Sit down with your significant other. If you want to bring some grandparents involved in it, because we do know sometimes your children go stay with the grandparents and they may just take all the rules and ignore them. So having that buy-in from all sides is really important. I know there are mixed feelings on this, but we strongly encourage setting parental controls on all devices. Again, as your children get older, you can take away some of the parental controls, but just like when our children start to drive at 16, you're not going to hand the keys over to them without any question of where they're going, who they're going to be with, or have any rules set in place. And in many ways, having a smartphone and having this technology at their fingertips can be more damaging to them than having free reign over the car. So we want to make sure that we're helping our children grow into responsible individuals with the use of this technology. And while we do a lot at school, we need your participation and your support at home to do the same thing. A huge thing that we stress: don't allow computers or devices in bedrooms overnight. We see a lot of activity on our students' accounts in the hours of 10:30 to 12:30 in the morning. And these are times when it's crucial that our children are sleeping and getting ready for the next day. So really making sure they don't have access to those devices. And then if they start complaining they can't get their homework done, they need to do something, that's good for you to be aware of for scheduling and for planning their activities. If you are going to allow your child to have an account on any of these gaming sites or social media sites, setting up a child or teen account. This also goes for an iPhone and an Android phone. You can set up child accounts in both of those. Have open communication with your children. Start prior to Christmas, especially if they're going to get a game console, an iPad, a smartwatch, or a smartphone. And also requiring those non-screen activities during the holidays, really making sure that we have that connection with each other. So just to wrap this up, we are going to have a packet posted with this live stream. I'm going to show you really quick a few things in there that'll help you. And we're also going to have a follow-up session available. We're going to send out a survey seeing what you might be interested in. As the holidays come up, if you want to meet in small groups, whether it's in Zoom or in person, I'm happy to go over understanding these apps that your children are in. If you don't know what Discord is, don't understand how the kids are using Instagram or Snapchat, we'll delve into it so you have a better understanding. We can set up parental controls on any device. We can have some hands-on workshops where we go over how to set parental controls. We can even have sessions where we talk about rules and what we can guide you through how to set up the rules with your significant other for your family. So to show you a couple elements, our resource packet that you're going to get goes over having conversations with your children, different areas that you might want to talk to them about. We also have a worksheet where you can start creating your family rules. So we have different areas for you to start brainstorming out. And as silly as this may seem, putting stuff down on paper is going to help as you try to figure out what's best for your family. So these areas where to consider making rules, we listed each with a little explanation to get you thinking. And then in the following pages, we have a blank section where you can start working on it yourself. We also have some tools and strategies to help with time management. As our children get into middle school, it's really important that they learn how to manage their time. So whether that's us helping them, whether it's them figuring out getting a real clock, putting their phone outside of their room, these things can help our children to have better time management. Sleep and emotional health is also extremely important. And there's a couple. Discord at a glance. This is really big with our children as young as 4th grade. Now, legally, they should not be on Discord until they're 13. Age appropriate wise, they probably should not be on Discord till they're 16. There's a lot of content on Discord that they can get their hands on, things that come across. There's a lot of scams on there. There's a lot of opportunity for identity theft on Discord. And these are things our children are not taught about. So if they're not taught to look for a scam specifically on Discord, it's more likely that they might actually get involved in that. This is also something that we can go over with parents in a small group. And so we have some information and how to set parental controls, iPhone controls, as well as Android. Also in the packet that we're going to send out is a link to get to your Instagram teen account. So many of our children from 6th to 8th grade are on Instagram. Um, Many parents may know this, some parents may not know this. As we polled our children, we got mixed reviews on everything, on who knows and who does not know. So the biggest thing is sitting down with your child and talking to them about what accounts they do have. We talked about this with every child at the beginning of the school year, and I encouraged everyone to be very honest with their parents when the time came. So talking about this teen Instagram account, there may be a little pushback because they've had an adult Instagram account. But the biggest thing with the teen is it's going to limit the content that gets to them that's inappropriate. It will also limit the amount of strangers that can get to them. And as many of us have seen in the news, there's a lot of people on Instagram that we would not want connecting with our children. This is with every platform, but at least Instagram has come out with a teen account to help with this. AT&T's website, which will also be in our packet, gives you the quiz for the smartphone. It also goes over parental controls that you can put on your TV. You can set it at a router level, on the mobile device, on your gaming system. And they have these fantastic shortcuts to so many apps that our children are using that you can go and understand it a little bit more. Also learn how to set those parental controls. They have a family media plan, talk about healthy digital habits. Common Sense Media, which will also be in our packet, talks about movies, TV, books, games, podcasts, apps, YouTube, so many things that our children are in right now. And this you can go through. It's going to give you an age range. It'll give you a little blurb about it, and it'll even rate it for you. Wait Until 8th is our nonprofit. The one thing I love about this, I follow them on Facebook, and it's seeing all the real stories that normal parents as well as celebrity parents tell about their children and how they waited. It also talks about the pushback and the grief they got from their children, which can be really empowering and supportive to you as parents, knowing that you're not alone in this. And so many parents struggle and sometimes have to go through some not nice words from their child, but it benefits them greatly. So I strongly encourage you, even if you go to this site and go through some of the testimonials, share about their stories, why to wait, all of this information that they have is a great resource. Family Online Safety Institute is also, they have good digital parenting tips and techniques that you can explore on every different topic. So I really hope that this has helped you. And what we are going to be doing is we are going to leave a Google form link. We'll have our packet. And then if anyone needs help translating any of this, please feel free to tap into other parents. Reach out to us if you need any additional help. If you have specific questions that I can help with, or anything that you would like to see in a small group workshop, or any way that we can help you as parents, please feel free to reach out to me via email, tiffany.prail@wplsf.com. I'm on the website, and you can also reach me through Parent Square. Again, I hope this has been really helpful for you and you have enjoyed some of the information that we gave you, and have a wonderful holiday season.